Back to Coffee Time on West Coast Radio. I am Aji Jogab Khan. And returning to domestic developments, I am joined now by our education reporter, Bubakar Sow.
Many young Gambians have decided to showcase their talents in writing, and one of these is Mohamed Siribe. Mohamed, who hailed from the Keneba village of Kantora district, is a teacher and also pursuing a bachelor's degree in English language at the University of the Gambia. Considering the challenges faced by both teachers and students, he has decided to author a book to ease the challenges faced by students, particularly in the poetry aspect. Siribe's anthology of poems is entitled Dandruff and has been approved by the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education to be used in both upper and senior secondary schools in the country. Meanwhile, Mohamed Sidibe shared the content of the book named Dandruff and the reasons why he came up with the title.
If you look at dandruff, the dictionary meaning would be scaly white dead skin flakes from the human scalp. And this dandruff, I name it that title because I compare the problems of Africa to dandruff. The problems of Gambia are compared to dandruff. Meaning, some of these problems can be solved in a short term. Others could be solved in a long term. And others, they might not be solved, or they will be difficult to be solved. So in the book, I explore, a lot of societal ills. It projects morality in it. So morality is one of the themes that I really talk about. Because as far as I'm concerned, the problems that we have in this country is morality. Because most of us, we behave well when we are with people, and we misbehave when we are alone. So that's why in this book, you see morality well projected in it. So as I said, Dandruff is the title. It's an anthology of poems with critical analysis. All the poems are analyzed with the exception of only one, which is titled The Doomy Dungeon, the last one. And I did that to allow the readers also to have their own introspection, because I believe everything should not be analyzed. That last one would serve as a warm-up to the readers to make their assumptions about what I'm trying to drive at.
So the Dandruff is an anthology of poems, a collection of poems. How many poems are in this book?
Yes, Dandruff has 53 poems.
So how do you think that this Dandruff is going to improve the love for students for literature in Gambian schools?
In this book, language is well, explored. I utilize that free flow of language in this poetry. And some other areas, it is written in a condensed form. And if you remember, in poetry, the language is always written in a condensed form, what we call an elevated form of a language. So that's in fact one of the reasons why I had to analyze. It was a challenge because it's always rare to see people analyzing their anthology or their collection of poems. We've seen Gambians writing poems, but to see those poems analyzed is very rare. So precisely how this book is going to help people in different ways. The language that is there, is going to help their vocabulary. Some of them, by reading this book, they will learn a lot of things incidentally. Because reading is very good for so many reasons. When you read, there are certain things you learn incidentally. Okay, you will know so many words. It will enrich your vocabulary. And the more words that you know, it will help you to express yourselves in, whatever, or at whatever time that you are called upon to say something. So their language, to be honest, the book has that rich language that I'm sure. And morality, as I said, equally is well projected.
What do you think that the government should do to make sure that these problems is solved?
I think the government can always do better. They always say no one's best is enough. Our best is always never enough. So I think what government should do is to encourage more Gambian books in our school system. If they want, they can put benchmark. Yes, let there be standard. And that standard can be determined by our seasoned educators. They can make benchmark that for a book to be used in our school system, it should be done this way, it should be done that way. And that benchmark, any author that has all the criteria, would be granted that permission to make sure his or her literary work is employed in our school system. So I think government should emphasize that one, because if we keep using, sometimes when you're talking it's not easy, others might think you are trying to be xenophobic. But if we keep using foreign materials and we're not encouraging our own, in the end, it is not going to help our literature. And the best people to write Gambian literature are Gambians, and nobody else. And I think the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Science and Technology, I think they're kind of doing well for higher education, and even for Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, they are also trying, I think so. But they can always do better.
Your book is being approved to be used in Gambian schools. Effect from which date, and then how are you feeling right now?
Yes, Alhamdulillah, I really feel elated.
Now, looking at your book, which is an anthology of poems, and then we have seen a good number of poets in the country, the likes of Omar Champion Cham, and others. People are now venturing into poetry. Now, what do you think prompted people to venture in this type of literature?
If you look at poetry, as I highlighted earlier, normally the language is written in a condensed form. That means the language is not ordinary. It is not everyday language. Now, also, why do we love poetry? Because poetry has a musical connotation. We have what we call lyrical poems. We have didactic poems, and the list goes on, narrative and all that. So poetry, the reason why I think so many people are venturing into it, because the message is always huge. You can share your message in a manner that would make the readers also to be on their feet. Because when you are talking to people, you are not using everyday language. You are using imagery to describe things, just to create effect. So I think so many people are venturing into it because they feel like poetry is a way, or it will help them. It's a floodgate that will help them to express their opinions or to share their opinions to the public. Yeah, because we've seen a growth in that area, especially spoken word poetry. Because we have to be clear, we have written ones as well as spoken word piece. So, others are doing both, others are just venturing into one, and yes, others are onto other different fields. So I think people are getting into poetry because they have passion. They think it is one of their consuming passions. And this is all about writing. If something is a consuming passion, something that you love, go with it.
And that was Mohammed Sidibe with our education reporter, Bubakar Sow. And that is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of Coffee Time and for this week. Coffee Time with Peter Gomez will be back next week, Tuesday. Join Peter Gomez for the longer version of the program at 8 a.m. on 92.1 FM and online at www.wcr.gm. As Monday has been declared a public holiday in observance of our Independence Day celebration on Sunday, February the 18th. Coffee Time with Peter Gomez now takes a deserved weekend break and public holiday. On behalf of the entire production team, thank you for the pleasure of your company throughout the week. I have been Aji Jogab Khan. Have a wonderful weekend and goodbye.